So in your math notebook, I want you to write down on your next clean sheet of paper, which fraction is smaller? Now, don't write all these words, guys. You don't need all of these words. I just want the fraction. So you're just going to write this part right here, 3/8 and 1/5. Okay? Maybe they're equivalent. So instead of that word or, you're going to write the more than, less than, or equal to sign. Okay? Of course, we want to be prepared to justify our answer, and we can do that one of two ways. You can do your circle fractions, which you can draw, or you can use a number line. Okay, so go ahead and do that. And then after each one of these, I'm going to have you pause the video, work on it, and then press play to start checking your answer. And if you just don't know the answer, guys, then don't pause it. Just continue to watch. Okay? So we've got our fraction circles here, right? Each one of these would equal one whole. Just one's divided up into fifths, whereas the other one's divided up into eighths. Okay, if I decided to show the fraction 1/5, that's what it would look like. 3/8 would look like that with the purple pieces. And you can easily, I guess you can't easily tell, it's very close, but there 3/8 is going to cover up a little bit more of that whole circle than the 1/5. Okay, now if you like your number lines, like me, in the back of our math journal, we can also do it this way, finding the fraction 1/5 and then finding the fraction 3/8, seeing which number is closest or furthest to the right, closest to the whole number, right? Whoops. And that would also give us our answer. 3/8 is more than 1/5. Now, if we went back, all the way back, we would have 3/8 and then this or would be turned into the more than sign, more than 1/5. Okay, now today we are going to practice putting fractions in order. Now, yesterday I briefly talked to you guys about using the half marker as the benchmark, the half of the fraction. And the reason that's going to, we talked about that yesterday, is that's going to help us for today. So if we look down at the bottom of our screen, we've got 2/4, 2/5, 1/4, 6/8, and 2/3. We have these 5 fractions and we have to put them in order on this number line. And we know that they come between my two whole numbers of 0 and 1. So where do we start? Let's first start with, do we have any fractions that are equal to a half? And remember, we've talked about fractions that are equivalent to half. The denominator, the number on the bottom, is going to be twice as much as the number on top. So if we look at these, 2/4, 2/5, 1/4, 6/8, 2/3, which one shows that which fraction is equal to a half? Okay, and hopefully you are seeing 2/4, right? So we're just going to go ahead and move that guy right there so that's easier to sort the rest of them. Now, what's next is we have to figure out these other 4. Okay, so now that we know which ones are equal to a half, another question we need to ask are, do we know any of these fractions that are less than a half? Okay, well, when I'm looking down here on my denominator and I am envisioning a number line divided into 5 equal pieces, and this is only 2 of those pieces, that tells me that's less than half. Okay, same with 1/4. 1 out of the 4 pieces is going to be less than half, right? 6/8, if I have a number line divided into 8 equal parts, and 6 is going to take up 6 of those, I know that that's almost the whole thing. So that's going to be more. And same thing with 2/3. I can visualize that one with those orange pieces, right? We have 2/3. That's almost the whole thing too. So that's going to be more. Okay, but just to double check, let's look at our number line. 2/5 and 1/4. Okay, 1/4 is going to come before 2/5. So when I move them over here in my number line, that doesn't have to be exactly where we think it is. I just need to make sure that the fraction 1/4 comes before the fraction 2/5, and that both of them come before my half number. Now that leaves me with these two larger fractions, right? And that's the last question. We can ask ourselves, which fractions are greater than a half? Well, we know it's going to be 6/8 and 2/3, but which one comes after 2/4? Again, we're going to check our fraction line here. We've got 2/3. So the red ones are the ones we just did. So now the blue ones will be our new fractions. 2/3, 6/8. That's very close, you guys. Very close. But if I draw a line in there, which I don't know if I barely can see this line showing up right here, 2/3 is going to come right before my 6/8. Okay, so on my number line, I'm going to put my 2/3 and I'm going to put my 6/8 right after it. Okay, that's how we put these fractions in order. Okay, let's try one more. Okay, so in your math notebook, we're going to draw a number line. And you don't even have to put the half mark if you don't want to. It's just we need a 0 and we need a 1. And the first thing we want to ask ourselves, do we have any fractions that are equal to a half? Okay, so let's look. We've got 4/5, 1/8, 4/8, 3/4, and 4/10. Well, I know that a half is when I have my denominator is twice as much as my numerator. So I know that's going to be equal to a half. Okay, let's come back over here to 4/5. If I have 5 circles on my pizza and 4 of them are filled in, that's going to be more than half, right? It's almost a whole. How about a pizza divided into 8 slices with just 1 piece covered? Is that going to be more than a half or less than a half? Hopefully you're saying less than a half. How about my 3/4? My whole pizza divided into 4 equal pieces. 3 of them are covered up. That's going to be more than half. And 4/10. Now, the way I look at this one, guys, is I know half of 10 is 5, right? And since 4 is less than 5, this has to be less than a half. Okay, so we've got all of our more than, our less than, and our equal to's. Now it's time to put them in number order, starting with our equal to. Okay, so we know what 4/8 is going to go right there. Okay, now what fractions are less than a half? Well, 1/8 and 4/10. Okay, so let's check our number lines. We have 1/8, 4/10, 4/10. 1/8 is going to come before 4/10. So when we move our fractions over, our less than half numbers are going to be on the less than side. 1/8 is less than 4/10. That just leaves us with the 2 more thans. Let's check our number model because we know those are the 2 greater than or more thans. 4/5, 3/4, very close, but 3/4 is a little bit more than 4/5. Okay? So both of them are more than a half, but 3/4 is going to come before the 4/5. Right? And there they are in order. Okay, guys, on Math Journal 86, you are just, ignore these because it's going to come up next. You're going to work on Math Journal page 86 if you want to go ahead and get that out. And we are going to zoom in on number 5. Okay, let's do number 5 together. So if you need to pause the video, pause it, get your stuff out, and then come right back to me. Okay, so first, any numbers in there that stand out to you that are going to be a half a number, equivalent to a half. Okay? Hopefully you said 5/10 because 10 is twice as much as 5. Okay, now let's talk about this 3 halves. is there's 3/2. It's an improper fraction. So we know that 3/2 is actually 1/2 plus 1/2 of more, right? Because 2 can go into 3 one time, and then it's going to leave us left over with 1. So that's 1 and 1/2. Same thing with 120 and 120 hundredths. 120 is larger than 100, another improper fraction. And if we had 100ths, that would have equaled 1/2, leaving 20 left over. So 1 and 20 hundredths, okay? Those are by far our two largest numbers, all right? So we're going to kind of leave those off for a second. But we're talking about 4/6 and 3/5. These are proper fractions, and they're still more than 1/2, right? Because if I had a pizza divided into 6 and 4 of those pieces were covered up, that's more than 3/6, which would be 1/2. So it's more. Same thing with 5. If I had a pizza of 5 slices, 3 were covered up, that's still more than 1/2. So what does this tell us? This time, instead of my equals fraction being right in the middle, it's actually going to be my smallest fraction. Okay? And then we have our 4/6 and our 3/5. We need to figure out which one's more. So let's go to our number line. 4/6, 3/5. It's close. It's close, but 3/5 comes before 4/6. So, oh no, we have to do this all over again. 5/10, 3/5, 4/6. Now we're left with our two great big numbers, okay? Well, this is 1 1/2, we know, because 2/2 would have been 1/2, leaving 1 left over. Half of 100, okay, if this was going to be a double, this would have been 200 hundredths. So it's not half, but 100 100ths would be a whole. Then we'd have 20 hundredths, and I know that half of 100 is 25, so it has to be, since 20 is less than 25, it has to be smaller than this 1 1/2. So we've got 120 over 100, and then 3/2, the big number. All right, your job today is to finish the rest of page 86. We just did number 5 together. If you need to go back and watch anything again because it went a little too fast, feel free to do that. Pause if you need to. Write anything down that you need to in your math journal, and then join me on Zoom for any questions. Okay, thanks, guys.